Hey, this is Dave with OC Astronomy. So, my day job is I'm an engineer, and I had an assignment coming up. I'm had to spend 3 weeks away from home, which means 3 weeks away from family, 3 weeks away from the kiddos, and 3 weeks away from my observatory. I don't know if I could stand it, but I knew I had this time coming up, and so I thought something I would do is I would make a really deep run and collect a bunch of good quality data and try to make a really good astrophoto. Now that I've got my mount working and I've got my camera going good. I've got a ZWO 294 one-shot color camera that I'm trying to work with now. I wanted to see what it could do and see if it's going to be a good camera for me this semester with the college class. So I got a bunch of about 8-minute subs that I collected before I left, and then another thing I got before I left was I finally bought Pixinsight. I've seen Chuck's astrophotography on his YouTube channel, and I've seen some others as well, and they've used Pixinsight, and their results that they're getting are better than what I'm getting. So I thought, hey, maybe MaxMDL isn't quite cutting it. So I investigated a little bit, and I tried to get Pixinsight. And also, since this is a trip where I'm not going to be able to do anything else in the evenings, I got the Warren Keller book on Pixinsight. He's got a website, IP4AP, or PI for IP4AP, IP4AP, A4. Look up Warren Keller and you'll find his book anyway. So I found his book on Amazon, and I got the Kindle version, and I've been reading it on the plane. I also got the free trial software before I left, and I went ahead and bought it before I left. The way it works is their trial is basically you get a copy of the software without any limitations, but when it runs out, you have to buy it, and it knows you have to send them your name and email and all this stuff, and they identify you, and so it's by the person. You only get the one trial, and so you have to decide if you're going to buy it or not, and that's fine. I don't want to work around their system. I don't want to cheat them out of money, so I'm not going to try to find different ways to download it. So I said, all right, I'm going to bite the bullet. I'll go ahead and buy it. So I bought Pixinsight, and let me tell you, I'm really impressed. The thing about it is I've been using MaxMDL, which is a good program, but I was using it to collect the data from my camera and also to process it, and it has a lot of processing tools. But I wasn't using Photoshop, and one thing that you can do in Photoshop that you couldn't do in Maxim really very well was selective processing over an area by using a mask. And I know from Photoshop that if you can use a mask, you can do a lot of things like sharpening and things like that on just your nebula versus doing it across your whole picture. And the results you get if you can use a mask and feathering and things like that are a lot better. But I didn't have a copy of Photoshop, and it was really expensive. But with the trial, I found that Pixinsight has a lot of the tools, along with the mask and the feathering, that you can do to do selective enhancement of your photo. It has a lot of those tools that Photoshop does, but it's geared for astrophotographers. Instead of Photoshop being a general photography program and then having plugins for astrophotos, this is all built around astrophotography. There's something called digital image processing. And in the digital image processing world, I'm a geek. I had to learn about this stuff. There's algorithms for finding edges. There's algorithms for enhancing shapes and for doing all these sorts of things. And that's the basics, the insides of what all these noise reduction and image enhancing formulas that they use on these images. They're all based on digital image processing techniques, and the cool thing is that these techniques are very recognizable in the software, and you can actually go and read books about them. You can find out how they engineer the stuff if you want to, or you can just use the program and know that Pixinsight is designed around good digital image processing techniques, and and they're very, very good. So what I've done, I've gone in and got my data and collected it. I stacked it. I went through, basically, I've followed Warren Keller's book chapter by chapter, and I'm now at the stage called deconvolution, which is one of the first things that you do. After you've assembled your thing and made it linear, you need to keep it linear up until this very last step would be deconvolution. Well, you can do deconvolution anytime in the linear range, but once you stretch your image so much that it goes nonlinear, you can't use deconvolution anymore. And deconvolution sharpens up your stars. It also sharpens up your nebula and is based on the point spread function, which is how your telescope distorts the image of the stars and the nebula. And so it's undoing that distortion, which is really, really great. But deconvolution is difficult. In max MDL, I had really bad results with deconvolution. It always left really big black rings around my bright stars. And so I knew it was very powerful, but I hated to use it because it always looked amateurish when I did it, or heavy-handed. But with Pixinsight and the ability to use masks and the layers that you can work on, it's really good for deconvolution. So I've been able to do that a little bit. So anyway, I'm working on M27. It's one of my favorite targets, and it's the first target that I did when I had a color DSLR that was modified, the first time that I ever used a modified camera for astrophotography. And I have a print of that in my house, and it's not very good, but it's the first one that I did that was any good, and showed off the colors. And you can probably see it on the screen behind me here, but the colors are really, really great, and so I wanted to try that. So anyway, I'm going to show you my screen. I'll turn this around here just a second and show you my screen and what I'm working on. I'm not through with it yet, but when I am done, I'll put the image at the end of this video, and you can let me know in the comments what you think about trying to process my first real attempt at a really good astro image, like taking my time, getting lots of subs, and using a quality program like Pixinsight. I think it's the perfect complement for using with a Paramount MIT mount. Since I have good control software, I need to also have good processing software. So we'll give it a try. Let me know what you think in the comments. All right, so this is, let me see if I can do an auto stretch. Whoa, that was a little bit much. I'll have to tone it down a little bit here. Maybe this way. There we go. Yeah, I just want to tone it down just a little bit so it's not too bright for the camera. So here is M27, and I just got done running deconvolution on it, and I think it looks pretty good. One thing I really like about it is M27 has a lot of color, and it's kind of an easier target because you're going to get a lot of this really nice blue and red. The one thing I had trouble with in my prior image was the star colors, and this has been able to preserve the star colors. This processing with Pixinsight has been able to do that a lot better. Let me try to undo deconvolution and see if it makes any difference. I just ran it, so I'm not sure how much difference it makes. I want to see. I tried to use the settings to be very subtle. So let's try, okay, that's without deconvolution, and there's with it. There's without. Let's see, I'm going to try and really zoom in. Oh, let's try, I'm still learning my knobs and my buttons. I'll try and get this area there. Oh, got my windows in the way again. Sorry. I'm still very much a rookie with this. All right, there is the image. Let's try and do redo. This is without deconvolution, and here's with deconvolution. It's a very subtle change, and it might not come across on a YouTube video. There's without, and then there's with. You can see, especially in this area here, these stars. If you watch without there's without. That, okay, that really does show it off. So right in this area here, look at those stars, and then with. You can see the star centers are tightening up, and it's what's great about it is it's hard to tell that it's doing anything too bad because it's not putting owl eyes or raccoon eyes around these bright stars. It's actually protecting it, and the algorithm that's doing it is doing a really good job. So there's without, and then there's with. And let me see if it makes a difference in this part of the nebula here. Let's go without, there's without, and then there's with. So it does, the deconvolution algorithm is enhancing some of this structure. That's what I really wanted it to do. It's not a sharpening algorithm. There's without, and you can, that's with. You can really see some of this structure in here, and then without, and with. It's kind of like when the doctor's trying eyeglasses on you, and you're like, is it better without? Is it better with? Is it better without? Is it better with? And to be honest, it's not very much of a. I'm not doing too much with it because I really want it to be subtle. I don't want it to even. That's without. That's with. I don't want to be noticeable that I'm using it. I want it to be. Let's go to this part of the image. There's without. There's with. And you could tell it's just bringing in the without and with. It's just bringing in the cores of those stars. So yay for deconvolution. I think I actually got it working without killing my image. I want to try to find, there we go. There's some really bright stars, and without and with. And it's very subtle, which is good. There's without, there's with. And it's not leaving me with any artifacts. Okay, so I'm going to call this step deconvolution good, and I'll zoom to fit and get out of here. This is not by any means a Pixinsight tutorial. Please, by all means, go read Warren Keller's book. He's got a lot more to say about it than I ever will. But without, with. At this scale on YouTube, it's really hard to tell. But the program Pixinsight is doing a really good job. And reading my way through Warren Keller's book is teaching me lots about it. And I think whenever I'm done with processing this image, it's going to be really nice. I want to get enough of it with a good contrasty background, and then I'll be satisfied. So I've got a little bit more work to do on this image. This is how it looks now. I think it's looking a lot better than anything I've ever done before. Although you don't have much to compare it with, I know what I'm capable of, and this is some of the best work I've done so far. So I know I've got a long way to go as an astrophotographer, but maybe one of these days I'll make one that looks as good as Chuck. All right, so there's OC Astronomy trying to join the big leagues. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and whenever I get a final product, I'll be sure and post it. You can bet on that. Thanks, everybody.